Okay, so hello everyone. So welcome to Environmental Research Seminar Series. So I am Kyun Park, Associate Professor of Epidemiology and Environmental Health Sciences and a co-leader of the Integrated Health Science Core of the M-LEEaD. So this seminar series is sponsored by the Michigan Center on Lifestage, Environmental Exposures and Disease, in short, M-LEEaD, and you will learn about what M-LEEaD is in a moment. So before we start, so if you have any question during the presentation, so please enter your question to Q&A or chat, and then so after the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session. So then I will turn this over to the M-LEEaD director, Dr. Dana Dolinoy.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Park. Meredith, can you go to the next slide? I'd like to begin by thanking the Integrated Health Sciences Core for sponsoring this webinar series. So this is the first of our fall semester Tuesday seminars, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about them. But to begin, I'm going to introduce our center. This is the M-LEEaD Center, which stands for Michigan Lifestage, Environmental Exposures and Disease. And our mission is to accelerate research that defines the impacts of environmental exposures during vulnerable life stages, and to promote our findings to improve clinical and public health interventions and the mitigation of disease. So that's a big mission. And to do this, we have a lot of help from our programs and cores. So for the next slide, Meredith. Our center is one of about 20 core centers that are funded from the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, and you can see them here on the map. These centers span the East Coast to the West Coast, but we're really happy to be joined here in the Midwest part of the country with our partner just to the east, Wayne State, but as well as University of Chicago, University of Iowa, University of Louisville, Cincinnati, and Kentucky. So collectively, these 20 plus centers seek to advance the scientific research of environmental health sciences. We promote community engagement and advance translational research, and we hope to support the next generation of environmental health sciences researchers. Next slide, please. This is a pictorial overview of our current center, and you'll see on the outside of these circles are cores, and I'll introduce you to these in a little bit. On the inside, you'll see programs that we have, and these include our translational research program, a career development program, a pilot program, and the administrative core that seeks to blend all of these things together. Next slide, please. Here, you'll just see our structural diagram that shows how these cores and programs fit into the M-LEEaD structure. I'll be describing each of these in detail, but one thing I wanted to point out at the bottom is to welcome our new center administrator, Rose Brandstrom. It's not an immediate welcome. She's been with us for over a year now, but this is our first formal webinar since we have been refunded, and we wanted to welcome Rose. Next slide, please. So we have a leadership team that consists of myself. I don't think I formally introduced myself yet. I'm Dana Dolinoy. I serve as the M-LEEaD director, but also the chair of Environmental Health Sciences, which is one of 6 departments in the School of Public Health. And I am joined by our deputy director, John Meeker, who is a professor of Environmental Health Sciences and our senior associate dean for research in public health. John and I are joined by Gil Oman and Vasantha Padmanabhan as associate directors. And this leadership team spans multidisciplinary backgrounds, including both basic science and clinical perspectives. And we do this on purpose in order to bridge the very micro and molecular out to the translational, affecting both the neighborhoods as well as the clinics. Overall, our membership is about 70 members, and these span various membership levels from full to associate. And we comprise 5 of the 6 school public health departments, 8 medical school departments, and also have membership from LS&A, the University of Michigan at Dearborn, and we have a few regional members from institutes within the state of Michigan, including Michigan State. Next slide, please. Our 4 aims include integrating and building upon existing institutional programs and facilities to help provide structure and resources that accelerate the understanding of the complex relationships among environmental exposures, biology, and disease. And we seek to foster integration, coordination, and cooperation among our membership across both traditional and emerging disciplinary boundaries, and to conduct high-quality research that translates into impact. Third, we seek to build programmatic and scientific capacity through support for scientists at different career stages, including those at the early and mid-career, and I'll introduce a few of these individuals in a moment. And we engage in research that addresses innovative and emerging questions in environmental health. And then last, but certainly not least, we engage with effective communities across the state and beyond via equitable partnerships in multi-directional manners to identify environmental health concerns, inform our M-LEEaD scientists, and then help the communities address these identified concerns through collaborative translational research. Next slide, please. The M-LEEaD Center operations are headquartered in what we creatively call the administrative core. This core is very important for the overall operation of our center. It assists with linking our researchers to all the core services I'm about to introduce. It also organizes a program of seminars and workshops. So that's different than this seminar that you're here today. This one is organized by one of our cores, the Integrated Health Sciences core. We also run and fund the M-LEEaD pilot program project and run and fund the career development program as well. And then finally, the administrative core also comprises 3 translational research teams, which I'll introduce in a moment. Next slide, please. Our pilot program is led by Deputy Director John Meeker, and I'm very excited to point to the last bullet here. We are about to announce our most recent round of pilot funding this week, so those of you who have applied, stay tuned. The purpose of the pilot program project is to stimulate the expansion of environmental health sciences research, and to do this, we provide limited short-term pilots. These can either bring new investigators into the field, forge new research collaborations, address priorities of community and regulatory stakeholders, seek to change the current paradigm of science, and test novel approaches. Next slide, please. The second program run by the administrative core is our career development program, and this is led by Associate Director Gil Oman and Justin Colacino. This program promotes careers in environmental health and includes structured mentoring for early career scientists, as well as targeted mentoring of mid-career faculty that may be new to environmental health. And just a few weeks ago, we were very pleased to introduce our 2 new center scientists who are shown here at the bottom. The center scientists complete rotations with each of our cores, as well as the community engagement core, to build on their current foundation in environmental health sciences. Rebecca Beck Petroff and Sandora Vivek Thangare are our 2 new center scientists for 2022-2023. Congratulations, Beck and Viveka. Next slide, please. The last program that I'd like to highlight for you today is led by Vasantha Padmanabhan, our Associate Director. These are our translational research teams. In the previous iteration of our center, these were called research teams, and they had a focus that was very mechanistic. So in the refunding of the center, we reimagined these teams. They still have that mechanistic foundation, but they've been designed to maximally create impact through translational research. So I'll be introducing them to you in a moment. Next slide, please. The first of the translational research team is called Cumulative Exposures and Population Health. And this is led by Karen Peterson and Erica Jansen, who are faculty members in nutritional sciences. The Cumulative Exposures and Population Health team aims to understand how environmental exposures affect disease across the life stage. And to do this, the team utilizes longitudinal studies to gather data on relationships between toxicant and other modifiers like diet or stress across multiple life stages. And on the right here, you'll see some of the recent research of Dr. Jansen. She is an expert on looking at toxicant exposures and sleep quality. And a quote from Dr. Peterson that talks about how the cumulative exposures team is working on linking epigenetics as a mechanism between environmental toxicants, co-exposures like sleep quality, and disease impacts, including metabolic syndrome. The next slide, please. Our second translational team is called Climate Change and Health Disparities. This is led by Toby Lewis and Karina Grunwald. And I'll direct you to the quote on the right side of the slide from Dr. Lewis. Our current research characterizes health impacts of weatherization programs in low-income and minority populations and evaluates health impacts of short-term pollen exposure in relation to air pollution. On the bottom, you'll see some of the figures that come out of this work. Dr. Grunwald had the opportunity to present this work on indoor temperatures to the Environmental Health Sciences Core Center meeting this summer in New York City. It was very well received, and it is a great example of community participatory-based research that both our translational research teams, as well as the Integrated Health Sciences Core and our Community Engagement Core regularly engage in. Next slide, please. The final translational research team is Toxicological Mechanisms and Health Outcomes. And this is led by our overall program director, Vasantha Padmanabhan, accompanied by Lori Svoboda. This team seeks to advance mechanistic toxicology research and inform behavioral, nutritional, and pharmacological interventions aimed at mitigating the effects of exposures. And you can see here in one of the translational research figures that it combines in vitro cell models, including tissue organoid models, as well as animal models, which there are a variety within our center, including rodents and sheep, and the analysis of clinical samples and mining of public health databases and epidemiological studies to have the full gamut of models available to conduct this research. Next slide, please. Outside of the administrative core, our M-LEEaD community has a number of facility cores as well as a community engagement core. Next slide, please. The Community Engagement Core is led by Amy Schulz, Barbara Israel, and Natalie Sampson, and you'll hear from Amy a little bit later in this webinar. This is a really exciting, dynamic team that works to increase our understanding among researchers of the community's environmental health priorities to help inform the center's research. The KEC also expands the use of environmental health sciences in decision-making and regularly engages with our policy constituents in East Lansing. They also promote scientific understanding and effective management skills to assure multi-directional communication and effective management. The three primary audiences of the KEC are organizations and community leaders in Southeast Michigan. New to this funding period, youth from communities experiencing disproportionate exposures and impact. And then finally, current policy and public health decision makers. And you can see here on the bottom of the slide, an example webinar that was hosted last year called Residents and Researchers, where we bring together community membership with M-LEEaD researchers to discuss very emerging and priority topics. Next slide, please. The Community Engagement Core also regularly engages with a stakeholder advocacy board, which is listed on the bottom right of this slide. These members include leaders from Eastside Community Network, the Henry Ford Health System, Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice, the Detroit Health Department, the group We the People of Detroit, Michigan Environmental Justice Coalition, and the Detroit Hispanic Development Cooperation. We really want to extend our thanks for their partnership. These are very active partners in M-LEEaD, and we are excited to produce impact. One of the things that you'll see on the left side is an example of one of the KEC fact sheets that has been produced with input from both scientists and community membership. This one is highlighting extreme heat and children's environmental health. Next slide, please. And the last of my slides here today, before I turn this over to the Integrated Health Sciences Core, I'd like to share with you two of our facility cores. The first of our facility cores is the Exposure Assessment Core. This is led by Stuart Batterman and John Meeker. And the core is designed to support the design, implementation, and analysis of exposure assessment. And by exposure assessment, the core includes both the traditional lab-based assessment, where we can look at different environmental toxicants in either biological or physical samples, but also a mobile lab, which you're seeing with the picture depicted on the right, where a van goes out and measures different air pollution sources and impacts. And here you can see that they're doing this in Detroit and looking at impacts of before the building of one of the new bridge to cross from Detroit to Canada, the Gordie Howe Bridge. The Exposure Assessment Core can assist our members and their collaborators with sample collection, sample storage, preservation and processing, as well as the evaluation of the toxicants or other factors in the environmental or biological samples. Next slide, please. Our second facility core has been renamed PODS, or Pan-Omics and Data Science Core. If you were familiar with M-LEEaD before this year, this core was called OBIX, but Maureen Sartor and Jackie Goodrich, the leaders, have renamed it Pan-Omics to indicate the vast number of big data science portfolios that they're able to work with. So PODS is able to provide our investigators and collaborators with expertise in study design and implementation of a broad range of molecular studies, including technology, platform choice, sample collection, and engagement with other key University of Michigan and outside resources. But more importantly, the core can also help on the back end and give bioinformatics analysis and data science services. So if you're interested in engaging with either the Exposure Assessment Core or PODS, you can see that this is a full service core from the very beginning when you're thinking of the research question to the very end when you're analyzing the data. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to our third facility core, which is the Integrated Health Sciences Core, which is the home of this Tuesday webinar series. And I will pass this back to Sung-Kyun Park, who will introduce the various members. Thank you, Sung-Kyun.
Thank you. And maybe so, Marie, why don't you just take over and then start our core? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sung-Kyun and Dana. Next slide, please. So yes, we are last but not least the Integrated Health Sciences Core, and I am the director, and I have two co-directors, Dr. Sung-Kyun Park and Wang. And Dr. Dan McConnell will also be speaking. Many of you have heard from Meredith and Robin, who also assist our core with web development. And then our newest colleague, who you'll hear from today in biostatistics, is Zhongzhe Ouyang. So you'll hear from him. So what I'm going to, next slide please, do is just give you a big picture overview of what the Integrated Health Sciences Core is and what our primary aim is. It's to advance understanding of environmental health sciences by promoting multi-directional translational research using integrated multidisciplinary approaches. So all relating to the main theme of our M-LEEaD Center, environmental exposures across the life course. And part of our integrated function is capitalizing on the set of NIH-supported studies that our members lead that encompass a wide range of environmental exposures and life stages. And we have a P30 repository kiosk, which helps connect researchers together and community members as well with information about research opportunities and data sets and populations that they may be able to access to answer research questions. Next slide, please. So our specific objectives, first off, we provide center investigators with assistance in study design, laboratory and repository protocols, and statistical support relevant to environmental health sciences research. And we address specialized problems depending on the kind of research that you're interested in. A second major objective of our core is to educate and train faculty, staff, fellows, students, and practitioners in conducting environmental health sciences research, including applying appropriate statistical methods. And we offer seminars and workshops. This is the first of our academic year seminars. A third objective is to promote interdisciplinary collaborations that foster multi-directional translational research. And the stakeholder advocacy board that Dana mentioned is an important way where we hear from members of the community about priority topics that can actually improve environmental health and quality. And we also want to help people utilize the data sets that have been collected and maintained. And in order to connect with those, objective 4 is we have a kiosk that will provide information about that, and we will be updating this kiosk in the near future. So please stay tuned for information on that. And then finally, catalyzing the multi-directional partnerships using various kinds of tools so that we are addressing state-of-the-art cutting-edge environmental health sciences issues and then connecting that research to application. Next slide, please. So I mentioned the repository kiosk, and you can see a beautiful spider web that kind of talks about that connecting function and facilitating interaction between members of the center, as well as practice professionals and community members. Next slide, please. And now I will turn the presentation over to Dan McConnell, who will share information about the class laboratory. Dan?
Well, thank you, Marie. My name is Dan McConnell, and I direct the class laboratory. We are off campus. Off campus near Plymouth and Green Road. So it's in a place that most people don't get to. We specialize in 3 major things, all of which are to facilitate collaborative research support across the university and across the country. We do biosample collection kit design to your specifications. We build them and we send them to either you or your sites so that they can be, blood can be collected or whatever biosample is collected. We have methods to ship them back to us, and we store them in our biorepository. And then if you choose, we have a wide variety of analytical methods that we've been using over the course of a number of years. I'll get to that in a little minute. We are certified by the College of American Pathologists, both for our laboratory analysis, much like the hospital is, but we're also certified by the Biorepository, which certifies biorepository resources. So could I have the next slide, please? Okay, this is an example of some of the biosample kits that we build. Normally, we look at blood, serum, plasma, but also urine, saliva, stool. We've got pancreatic fluid. All sorts of different materials can be collected and stored. The kits are all barcoded with unique labels so that we can follow, the data entry and track them in our audit system. Phlectronic is a new word. I kind of like it, but that means allowing for electronic and physical audit trail. And we color code the vials for our own use internally. Red cap tubes are serum and yellow cap tubes would be urine, something like that. That just helps us organize better within the laboratory. But you get a sense for what some of the blood collection kits might look like. Next slide, please. And then we do assay services. Some of them are pretty routine, like estradiol, testosterone, progesterone, things that you can get in hospital laboratories. But where we really shine, we specialize is some of the more esoteric assays, like inhibin, AMH, RANK-L, things like that, that are not normally done on a commercial basis. And we do all sorts of ELISAs that are to your specifications. We've also got some experience in developing new assays for new biomarkers. So that's always an option as well. Next slide. And then here's the biorepository aspect of it. We've got 60, I think now, minus 80 freezers in the laboratory. We've got liquid nitrogen storage availability. All these freezers are monitored redundantly. All of them have monitors on them that call out if the temperature changes. And again, I said we're certified by the CAP Biorepository Accreditation Program. And as a feature, there is no charge for P30 that's written into the grant itself. And I believe that's the last slide. Thank you.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Wang. I'm a professor and associate chair in the Department of Biostatistics. I have been working in this area of environmental health sciences with statistical methods for over 10 years. As Marie just introduced, I'm one of the co-leaders of this integrated health sciences core. And today I'm going to use the next couple of slides to introduce to you our statistics consulting services that are provided by our core. So basically at the University of Michigan, they already have very strong grant development and study design and analysis resources. And these include, but not limited to, the following. For example, the MICHR, the Michigan Center for Health Research, as part of University of Michigan's Clinical and Translational Science Award Program. Another resource is the SABRE, Statistical Analysis of Biomedical Education and Research Unit. CSCAR is another one. Its full name is Center for Statistical Consultation and Research. So our core will build upon these wonderful resources. In our core, we do not duplicate their services. Instead, we will provide you the guidance, and we also provide you the referral for basic methodological and grant development advices. But in the meanwhile, we also provide the more targeted and more advanced method consultations that are required by our center members to advance environmental health science researchers. Next slide, please. We are trying our best, putting a lot of efforts, try to promote the use of cutting-edge statistical methods to address many significant or impactful environmental health research priorities. So these examples include, for example, the exposure response curves, where we do need some non-parametric or semi-parametric techniques to find the changing point or time varying effects, functional analysis, for example. And we also provide the consultants on the efficient assessment of multiple pollutants, putting them together, combine them together, and the special interpolation of environmental exposure data and how to combine multiple data resources. And while doing the data integration, how to validate your data integration is correct or not. We also do data dimension reduction and correlation analysis for special data with very complicated data structures. Causal inferences is another strength of our core, and we do handle these causal relationship and for the environmental health sciences. So our service of these statistical consultants actually are free to our center members. And with this new round of funding, and especially encouraged by the funding agent, we actually are able to provide some hands-on consultant and allocate a PhD student from the Department of Biostatistics to do that. And that is Ouyang. So Zhongyang, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Wang. Hi, everyone. My name is Zhongzhe. I'm a second-year PhD student in the Department of Biostatistics at the University of Michigan. I have extensive experience in health-related data analysis and study design. My specific research interests include developing and applying new statistical methods for semi-parametric models, longitudinal studies, and missing data analysis. I'm currently working as junior statistical consultant with the supervision of Dr. Wang.
Wonderful, thank you, Zhongzhe. And feel free, that is his email. Feel free to reach out and yeah, let us know if you're happy with his service. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the other big component of our, related to statistical methods is we actually will hold some seminars or symposium to disseminate knowledge of the advanced statistical methods that are most relevant to environmental health sciences. So this year we are going to change to a little bit new format with the environmental statistics practice workshops. So we want to invite everybody who need help to these workshops, and we provide hands-on help with your study designs, power and sample size calculations, and your analysis plans. The other big thing we have been done, which is very successful during the past maybe 10 years. And then this started with the Statistics Day Symposium, but during the pandemic, we are hard to have an in-person symposium, so we transformed that to be a environmental statistics week. But this year we are lucky enough, so we will have this as in-person symposium. That's going to be October 24th. And here is a rough agenda for that symposium. We will feature a keynote speaker, Professor Corey Ziegler from University of Texas in Austin. And he's going to talk about the role of statistics in science and policy making for the environmental health sciences. Following his keynote speech, we'll have a panel discussion. And then after the lunch social, we will have the student and postdoc research posters and lightning talks. So at here, I would love to encourage all of you guys, students and postdocs, to submit your poster to our symposium. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand this back to Songyun.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Songyun Park back again. And so as the Marie introduced earlier, that another role of our core is to educate and train environmental health scientists. So we provide this public health practice consultation for researchers and for community and government and industry. And also we enhance professional skills through this workshop, including various professional skills, so communication and leadership, public comments, and community engagement. We also, one of the biggest event we do every year is an annual environmental health practice workshop. So as you can see on top of the right side, and so last year, the practice workshop we did was to discuss the Toxic Substances Control Act, also known as TSCA, and then whether this TSCA law works as it was designed, and how we can make this TSCA work. And so we invited the leading scientists and then practitioner to discuss about this this issue last year. So next slide, please. Over the past several years, we also brought leaders in public health practice to this workshop series. And so, as you can see, these 3 workshops happened, past 3 years. And then we discuss important topics, including climate change and health, and how to evaluate population toxicity from these endocrine disrupting chemicals using systematic review, and health equity issue in Tosca. Next slide, please. As you are now here, so this environmental research seminar series is another main activity that our core is doing. So this seminar series provide an interdisciplinary forum for learning from speakers and community members, and share their recent environmental health research between center members. And then this series bring together center members, faculty, students, staff, and fellows and practitioners from across the university. And we invite speakers from within the center, as well as university and outside the university community. So the last year, we invited speakers who talk about a range of topics, including chemical mixtures, toxicology, women's health, environmental justice, exposome, and notably, so you can see on top of the right, so occupational health issue among nail salon workers in Michigan by Professor Aurora Lee and Marianne Rosenberg. Next slide, please. So as we meet today, so this seminar series will be bi-monthly, so approximately 2 per month. Tuesday from noon to 1 p.m. And actually the seminar will end 10 minutes before 1 p.m. So you can move to the next class and other meeting. And so we have been, meeting this seminar virtually, and then this year we will continue this virtual seminar during the fall term. But as you know, so we want to meet in person, so we will consider a different format as well. And we have a wonderful list of speakers this year. So Drs. Rita Strakowski from MSU, Luke Montrose from Colorado State, and our own Dr. Sarah Adler and Rebecca Petrov. So I will turn this over to Professor Amy Schulz.
Thank you, Sung-Kyung, and delighted to be here today. Thanks for giving me a moment to talk a little bit about the Community Engagement Core and the role that we play using space that the Integrated Health Sciences Core has offered us in their seminar series. Before I start, I just want to give a shout out to the newest member of our Stakeholder Advocacy Board, whose name did not quite make it onto the list that was presented earlier. I want to welcome Irma Liepart, who's our new representative from the Michigan Sierra Club, and who I see is on today. Welcome, Irma, and thanks for joining us and becoming part of this endeavor moving forward. So as a subset of the Integrated Health Sciences Seminar Series, the Community Engagement Core organizes a series of what we call residents and researchers talks each semester. And these are really focused on research that is bringing together community residents, community leaders, and academic partners to address primarily environmental justice issues. So this is research that is addressing issues often that have been identified as environmental health challenges by community residents. Our focus is in Southeast Michigan. although a few of our projects extend to other areas of Michigan. This part of the webinar series is organized by the Community Engagement Corps in partnership with the Integrated Health Sciences Corps, and they meet at the same times, Tuesdays from 12 to 1, and are virtual. You can see the flyer that's on this slide is from one of our webinars last year, featuring a couple of community residents who are actively engaged in addressing issues of flooding that have, there's been a lot of media attention around these couple of large flooding events that have hit Detroit in the last few years, along with researchers who are working on these issues. The next slide highlights a little bit So over the last year, we focused heavily on environmental justice, thinking about that as a manifestation of environmental racism, which is policies and procedures that disproportionately expose communities of color to environmental risks. You can see here a number of the webinars that we featured over the course of the last year. And then upcoming this year, we're really excited about the series that we have organized for the fall. And this fall, we're really bouncing off. People may remember a series of declarations that were signed over about a year and a half ago, declaring racism as a public health crisis. These were nationally, a number of municipalities and counties and a few states, including Michigan, signed declarations that were seeking to draw attention to racism as a fundamental driver of public health inequities. And so we're focusing our fall webinar series on racism as it shapes disproportionate exposures and risks in communities of color in Michigan. The first in our series is on PBBs in Michigan, and this was focusing on a large-scale chemical contamination that happened in Michigan in the 1970s. And the researcher Michelle Marcus, who is from Emory University, has been working very closely with residents of communities that were highly exposed to the PBB contamination for the past several decades, and has been able to demonstrate multi-generational reproductive health impacts of that work. So she and one of her community partners will be talking on September 27th about that work. It's really exciting and important work. I hope many of you will be able to join us there. The second in our series this fall is focusing on water access and public health, and particularly thinking about the issues of water access as a fundamental human right, which is absolutely fundamental to public health, as we've seen in the COVID-19 pandemic and in other arenas. We're very fortunate to be bringing in researchers who have done a really important scholarship in this area, linking lack of access to water and lack of affordability of water to public health manifestations, as well as two really powerful activists who are working on promoting water affordability and equity. One from the Detroit area and one working on a national scale. That one will be October 11th, and we're very excited to welcome you to that event. The third series is still in progress, but we believe it will be focusing on the contamination of the Huron River watershed by an industrial release that happened in Wixom late summer. And we're still in the process of putting together the speakers for that, and look forward to announcing it once we have it finalized. So hoping we will see many of you at the R&R Researchers and Residents series coming up this fall. And now I think it goes back to Kyun.
Okay, so thank you everyone for your attention, and so we have about 4 minutes left, and then so if you have any question, please enter your question to Q&A. And so before, while you are considering some question, I want to actually shout out, two important our Integrated Health Science Corps member, even though the Marie already introduced before, but these two people always work very hard under the behind the scene, and then without their support, so this seminar series cannot occur. So our members, so Meredith Mackey and then Robin Wiley, so really want to appreciate their support for our core activity. And then I see that the Dana raise your hand, and so
I was actually trying to use my clapping emoji, but I raised my hand instead to also thank Meredith and Robin for all of their assistance with this webinar series and the Integrated Health Sciences core as a whole.
Yeah. Okay, so because so today was a more like an information session, and then we will have a chance to have a more engagement and communication through this seminar series and RNR series. This year, I really hope to have a moment to the more connection with you over the next academic year. So Meredith, yeah, move to the next slide, please. So as Dr. Schulz already introduced, so our next seminar, which will be residents and researchers, RNR series. So first series, that will happen in 2 weeks. So the same time, Tuesday noon. And then that will be this polybrominate biphenyl contamination happened several decades ago, and still it is a problem in Michigan. So we will have 2 speakers, Bonnie Havliak and then Dr. Michelle Marcus, and talk about this the issue in Michigan and how research and the community partner so engage together to address this environmental health issue. So we hope to see you in 2 weeks in this time. Thank you for your attention, and then so we will see you in the future.